Vasishta continued, cut off all the fetters of desire and hope solely with the intelligence that is unlimited, and which is endowed with patience and perseverance, and go beyond dharma and adharma. Dharma is your social obligations, and adharma will be the opposite. I think we could understand it in terms of shoulds and shouldn'ts. We go beyond shoulds and shouldn'ts. When one is firmly rooted in self-knowledge, even the worst of poisons turns into immortalizing nectar. When you're rooted in self-knowledge, you can see how things can be used to remind you to remain established in self-knowledge. Eckhart Tolle talks about the pain body. What I find when you turn the attention to itself and you're aware of what's going on, one of the things that you might be aware of is pain, emotional pain, which is like a physical thing. There's two ways to respond to that pain body, that emotional pain. One is to get caught up in the drama of it, and in that way you feed it. Or you could try to run away from it, hide from it, which is no good if you want to get established in self-knowledge. But actually there is a third option, and that's to see it as something positive. It depends on what stories we've got about it. It is only when this self-knowledge is overpowered by ignorance that the delusion of world appearance arises in the mind. But when one is firmly established in self-knowledge, which is infinite, unlimited and unconditioned, that's the nature of our consciousness after all, then the delusion or ignorance that gave rise to world appearance comes to an end. The world appearance is all our notions of a world and a self and so on. Then the light of your wisdom will radiate in the four directions throughout the world. I find that last statement a little bit suspect. Why say it? What's it appealing to? Is it appealing to the ego, which says, yes, I want the light of my wisdom to radiate throughout the world? So, I say this because there's some statements later on which I find quite suspect as well, which I think needs to be pointed out. But there's some good stuff here as well. To one who thus drinks the nectar of immortality in the shape of self-knowledge, the delights of sense pleasures become painful. In fact, the so-called delights of sense pleasures are often painful anyway. You know, people are driven to indulge themselves in certain ways. They might see alcohol or getting drunk, indulging in sense pleasure, and you experience the pain of that fairly immediately. Lots of the things that we indulge in usually leave us feeling pretty awful afterwards. We resort to the company of only those who have attained self-knowledge. The others are donkeys in human garb. I have a bit of a problem with this. Where's love and compassion? The edition I've got of the Yoga Vasishta is published by the Divine Life Society, and they've got their logo on the back here, which with its slogan or motto, serve, love, meditate, realize. And I think we've got this unhelpful traditional yogic influence here, which is very much concerned with purity, purification of the mind, of the senses. And the trouble with purification is you get caught up with notions of pollution, and it's got nothing to do with self-knowledge. On the other hand, if you're practicing self-knowledge, you need as much support as you can get. It's not an easy thing. You look for your inspiration, your encouragement from whatever source you can. And you're going to get it, I suppose, in the company of those who have attained self-knowledge. On the other hand, as it said in the previous paragraph, even the worst of poisons turns into immortalizing nectar. And you can usually learn something, even from so-called donkeys in human garb. And I think we can certainly do with learning some love and compassion. If that's not part of self-knowledge, then I think we've missed the point. Even as elephants move with long strides, the sages who have reached the higher states of consciousness rise to the highest states of consciousness. And this is what indicates we're caught up with one of these yogic strands, which is concerned with higher states of consciousness. Self-inquiry is not concerned with higher states of consciousness. It is concerned only with consciousness. And now it says, they have no external help at all, and no sun illumines their path. Self-knowledge alone is their light. So if self-knowledge alone is their light, then why do they need the company of only those who have attained self-knowledge? The bottom line is self-knowledge is the ultimate light. If you haven't found this light, then there's no point in looking for it in anybody else, even those with self-knowledge. You have to find it in yourself. In fact, the sun and the worlds become non-objects of perception to them who have gone beyond the realm of objective perception and knowledge, even as lamps lose their luminosity while the midday sun shines. They become non-objects of perception, just like every other object. I mean, what is the sun? We see it as an object, but there's the experiencing of light and warmth. That's what's happening. Maybe it comes from a certain apparent direction, and we attribute that to the sun. But what we're actually only experiencing is light and warmth, and we assume there's an object behind it.